We checked in today with Winsome McIntosh about the Equal Rights Amendment and why we still need to ratify it. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, and subscribe to our channel. And on the line with us is Winsome McIntosh. Winsome is the president of the McIntosh Foundation, a member of Earth Justice's Board of Trustees, a supporter of women's and environmental issues. Winsome McIntosh is the Twitter handle. Winsome, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
My pleasure. Thanks for joining us. The Equal Rights Amendment.
Yes.
I understand that we're getting closer to ratifying this. Tell me about it.
Yeah. Well, it was dormant for almost 40 years, since 1982. And then about 3 years ago, two states decided to pass ratification, Nevada and Illinois. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden we came into range of going to having 37 ratifications and only needing one more for it to become an amendment to the Constitution. And that began to stir interest again after being dormant for so many years.
Now, isn't there a concern that, and by the way, during that dormancy period, my recollection is that Ted Kennedy was still introducing it on the floor of the Senate every single year, religiously.
Yes, he was. And Carolyn Maloney was introducing it on the House floor every year. Right.
So, but I also understand that there was an expiration on it, and that we're past that expiration. How do we get around that?
Well, there is nothing in the Constitution that allows for time frames, although Congress can put one on. What they did back in '82 was to put a time frame on it, not in the amendment itself, but as an adjunct to it. And it is, I'm funding a legal team, a crack legal team, that has gone back and has researched 200 years of this, of amendments, and they are convinced that it is, it would not stop the amendment from being added to the Constitution at all.
Interesting.
Now, there's no legal basis for it, really.
Yeah, this has, since it was first introduced, it was in the 1970s, wasn't it? Or was it the late 60s, the first time the ERA was?
I think it was in 1971.
71, and it's a single sentence, basically, that says...
It's so simple, yes.
Yeah, I don't have it memorized, I'm sorry. I'm guessing you may?
I do. Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. It's one simple sentence that basically says men and women shall be treated equally under the law.
Right.
And that is the key to the whole thing. But our legal system is such that the final arbiter of any kind of dispute goes back to the Constitution.
Now,
and go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Finish your thought, Winsome.
And there are, it's interesting, there's 179 countries in the world right now that have this gender equity provision in their constitutions. Mm-hmm. The United States is not one of them. And we would like to address that and correct that, as well we should, I think, at this point in time. So it's for men and women. It's not just women.
Right. So, which raises another question, and that is, could there be, occasionally you get the law of unintended consequences biting you on the backside. Might this be a situation? Does this need to be tweaked slightly to say on account of gender or gender preference or something like that, so that trans people are not excluded, or other non-gender conforming people?
That's an interesting question. This version of it has been around since 1923.
Right.
And so, society has changed, and our, gender is a more proper use than sex these days. But we are reluctant to change something that was actually introduced it for the first time by the suffragettes in 1923.
Wow. Yeah, and you know, to the extent that there might be some ambiguity there, that will, you know, that's going to shake out in the courts.
Of course it will. Yeah.
To what we're talking with Winsome McIntosh, the president of the McIntosh Foundation, a member of Earth Justice Board of Trustees, and a supporter of the ERA here, about the Equal Rights Amendment. What practical impact would the Equal Rights Amendment have? And why is it that this has been partisan? Why is it that for the last 30 years or so, or the last 100 years, Republicans or conservatives, let's say, have been opposed to the Equal Rights Amendment pretty consistently?
Well, we can thank Phyllis Schlafly for that. I was a college student when she decided to enhance her career within the Republican Party and took on fighting this issue, and very cleverly was successful at shutting it down before it was totally ratified. I find it hard in this day and age for people to even consider it, whether they are conservatives or progressives or liberals, that you would not think of your daughter, your mother, your sister, your grandmother as being unequal to their male counterparts. It's just a logical thing for us to agree on. And so my fear is that it continues to become a political football and just a scare tactic, for one party or another, depending on what year it is, frankly, to use. And that appalls me. Let me tell you why I'm so motivated at doing this and supporting it. In 1966, I graduated from college. I am turning 75 in June. And in 1966, I was the only girl in all of my classes in a business school, and graduated with honors. And in those days, the corporations would come down to recruit for new business people for their businesses. And I could not get an interview. They would not talk to me. They wouldn't see me because I was a woman. So that was my first experience with sort of gender inequity.
Right.
And honestly, I went through my 30s, 40s as a mother and a wife and a volunteer, and then I went into professional life in my 50s, and I'm determined to try and help in any way I can get the Equal Rights Amendment passed before I die.
Yes, so that young women will not experience the discrimination you did.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's just one example. There's tons of them out there.
I started my first business in 1969, and I still remember the late 60s, early 70s. You open the newspaper, or you wanted to place an ad in the Help Wanted section. You call up the newspaper and say, I want to place a Help Wanted ad. The first question was, Help Wanted men or Help Wanted women? Those were the sections, and they were very different kinds of jobs that were being presented in those two places. Now, the scare stuff that is being promoted by, the right wing and the Fox News and the right wing hate radio commentators is that if we ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, then everything's going to go to hell. Businesses are going to go broke because the economy is going to fall apart, because suddenly they're going to have to start paying their female employees an additional 20-some-odd%. And that the feminazis, Limbaugh's feminazis, are going to start coming out of the woodwork, suing everybody in sight, et cetera, et cetera. Do you consider any of those practical outcomes of this, and what do you see as the actual outcome outside of what you just discussed?
I think, the actual outcome, I mean, there's been tons of economic analysis over the years, and it's common knowledge that women are paid 20 cents less than men for the same job, same qualifications, same amount of time in a job, that sort of thing. And what that does, when you have 51% of your population are women, and most of those women now are in the workforce. That didn't used to be the case in 1970, but it certainly is today. And women are bringing in anywhere from 40% to 50-60% into the family income, which is needed in in two-member family, working
Two-income
family.
families, yeah.
Yeah, right. So there's an Institute for Women's Policy Research that found that 60% of women, 60%, would receive a pay increase if paid the same as men of the same age with similar education and hours of work. And that the poverty rate for working single mothers would fall by half from 29% to 15%. And the U.S. economy would produce additional income of over $512 billion if women received an equal pay. And that's not going to hurt corporations. We're not talking about, individually a whole lot of money. But taken as a whole, with a 51% of our population, it truly means that it will, the money will flow not only to women, but it'll be holistically and economically advantageous for the entire nation.